I never imagined that one of the most humiliating moments of my life would happen in a sea of lace, lights, and love songs with over 300 people watching. It was supposed to be a celebration of love, family, and new beginnings. My older sister's wedding, the biggest event our family had hosted in decades. Guests flew in from all over the country. There were live violins, a champagne fountain, and even a custom-built flower arch with her and her groom's initials. Every detail was perfect, at least on the surface, but underneath all the glitz and glamour, something ugly was brewing. Something no one else could see. Until she slapped me right across the face. In her wedding dress, in front of 300 guests. And all I did was say no. That slap wasn't just about a disagreement. It was about power, about control, about keeping up appearances no matter the cost. And I wasn't willing to be her puppet, but she never expected what would come next. Because when you push the quiet sister too far, when you humiliate her publicly, you better be prepared for the storm that follows. So let me take you back to the beginning, to where this all started. Before the wedding invitations, before the lies, before the secrets, before my own sister looked me in the eye and decided I was disposable. Growing up, I always thought my sister Carolyn was perfect. She was the golden child, the one with straight A's, dimples that made teachers melt, and a natural talent for knowing exactly what to say and when to say it. She made friends like it was breathing. I, on the other hand, was just me. The quiet one. The one who read books instead of going out. The one who always stood in her shadow. Our parents adored her. Not just loved her, adored her. Everything she did was magical in their eyes. When she joined the debate team in high school, they bought her a car. When I made honor roll 3 years in a row, they said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to watching TV. I wasn't jealous. At least, not at first. I loved her, truly. She was my sister, my best friend. When she curled up next to me, in bed after her first breakup, crying into my pillow, I held her hand and stayed awake the entire night. I was her secret keeper, her emotional backup, her audience. But over time, I noticed something. She didn't treat me like an equal. She treated me like a servant, a tool. When she needed a ride, she called me. When she needed someone to write her college essay, she asked me. When she needed to lie to our parents about where she was, I was the cover story. And I went along with it because that's what sisters do, right? But something changed after college. She moved to a new city, got a job in marketing, and reinvented herself as some social media star. Her life became all about image, about perfection. And somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a liability. Someone who knew too much. Someone who didn't fit into her new, shiny world. Still, I loved her. When she got engaged to Michael, a sweet, stable guy from a wealthy family, I was genuinely happy for her. He seemed grounded, honest, kind, the kind of man who made you feel safe. I remember the day she asked me to be her maid of honor. She didn't exactly ask, she announced it, as if it was a given. "You're my sister. Obviously you're the maid of honor," she said while scrolling through Pinterest boards. "Try not to mess this up, okay?" I laughed it off. That was just Carolyn. Blunt, bossy, but I didn't mind. I'd do anything to see her happy. Or at least, I thought I would. Because 1 week before the wedding, she asked me to do something I couldn't do. Something that would turn everything upside down. Something that would lead to that slap in front of 300 people. And the worst part, I almost said yes. The week before Caroline's wedding. Everything should have been about flowers and fittings. And final touches. Instead, It was chaos. Not the kind you see on wedding shows, like a missing cake topper or a delayed tux delivery. No, this was different. Darker. Tense. It started on a Tuesday afternoon when Carolyn showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her face was pale, lips pressed tight, her designer heels clicking against my hardwood floor with more aggression than necessary. We need to talk, she said. I was in the middle of prepping her bridal party favors, little personalized candles with gold foil labels. I wiped my hands and motioned her to sit. What's wrong? I asked. She didn't sit. She stood there in my living room, shifting from foot to foot, arms crossed. Okay, she began. I need you to do something for me. It's important. Her tone was sharp. Urgent. Like she was about to ask me to bury a body. I tried to lighten the mood. Don't tell me you want to change the wedding dress again. She didn't laugh. She took a deep breath. Michael doesn't know everything about me. I blinked. Okay? She looked away, biting her bottom lip. He doesn't know. About Thomas. That name hit me like a jolt. Thomas. Her ex. The one she swore was a mistake. The one who disappeared from her life 2 years ago under very suspicious circumstances. You told me you were done with him, I said carefully. I was, she snapped. It was just one time I was drunk. It meant nothing. My stomach sank. You cheated on Michael. Technically, no. It was before we were officially engaged, she insisted. But if he finds out, it's over. His family is traditional. They want some fairy tale narrative. If they even suspect I've been with someone like Thomas recently. She stopped herself. And then she looked at me, eyes wide, like she'd found her solution. I need you to lie for me. I froze. What? I need you to say I was with you that weekend. Just that weekend in Chicago. When Michael's cousin asks. She's nosy, and she's coming to the rehearsal dinner. She knows I went off the grid for a couple of days. I told Michael I was with you. So now I need you to confirm it. That's all. I stared at her, feeling like the floor was shifting under my feet. That's not just a little white lie, Carolyn. It's 2 days, 1 conversation, that's it. You slept with someone else, and now you want me to cover for you. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, stop being dramatic. It was months ago. It meant nothing. Michael and I are solid. We're good. We're in love. I stood, suddenly feeling suffocated. You should tell him. Are you insane? No. I'm saying if you love him, if your relationship is real, you should be honest. You owe him that. Caroline's face twisted into something unfamiliar, something cold. No, I owe myself the life I've worked for. The ring, the family, the future. I've spent years building this, and I'm not letting it fall apart because of one stupid mistake. And you, she pointed at me, you owe me this. After everything I've done for you. That hurt. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. She scoffed. I got you into that marketing internship. I paid for your dress. I've included you in everything. You've controlled everything, I shot back. You don't ask, you command. You don't love, you manipulate. She went silent. I could see the anger boiling behind her carefully crafted exterior. For a second, she looked like she might scream. But instead, she laughed a low, bitter laugh. Fine, she said. Don't help me. Just remember this moment when everything crashes down. And then she walked out, slamming the door behind her. I sat down, the half-wrapped candles still on the table. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to call Michael, to tell him everything. But I wasn't that person. I wasn't a destroyer. I didn't want to ruin her wedding or her life. But I also wasn't a liar. So I did nothing. For 3 days, I heard nothing from her. No texts, no calls. The silence was loud. Then, the night before the wedding, I received a single message. "You're still my maid of honor. Don't ruin my day." I stared at the screen, heart sinking. That message wasn't a reconciliation. It was a threat in disguise. Still, I showed up. I stood by her side, held her veil, fluffed her train. And the next day, in front of 300 people, she slapped me across the face. For the one thing I refused to do, lie. The morning of the wedding, the air felt too still. You know that eerie silence before a storm? That's exactly what it felt like. I stood in the bridal suite surrounded by white roses, curling irons, and bridesmaids sipping mimosas. Everyone was glowing except me. My stomach was a knot, and no amount of concealer could cover the unease that was pulsing behind my smile. Carolyn hadn't said a word to me all morning. Not one. She barked instructions, threw tantrums over eyelashes and boutonnieres, but never once looked me in the eye. I might as well have been one of the catering staff. I told myself to keep it together. One more day. One more role to play. I didn't want to be the problem. I didn't want to make this about me, but I was already a problem in her eyes, just by not lying. When the photographer asked for a picture of the sisters, she forced a smile, looped her arm through mine, and whispered through gritted teeth, "Just pretend everything's perfect. Like your little morals didn't just try to ruin my life." I turned my face just enough to say back, "You did that on your own." The smile slipped from her lips for half a second. Then the flash went. Off. Click. Captured forever. The ceremony itself was stunning. White rose petals on the aisle. A live string quartet. Guests stabbing at tears while the vows were exchanged under a flower-covered archway. Michael looked at her like she hung the moon, and for a brief moment, even I believed it. That maybe this was her moment of truth, that she might start this marriage clean, that her lie would rot quietly in some locked drawer and never hurt anyone. But Carolyn didn't believe in drawers. She believed in control, and she wasn't done punishing me for refusing to give her mine. At the reception, the ballroom glowed golden with candles and chandeliers. Plates clinked, laughter echoed. The band crooned old love songs. It was almost enough to distract me almost. During dinner, her new mother-in-law leaned over and made polite small talk with me. Then, with a casual sip of wine, she asked, "So, how was that weekend in Chicago with Caroline?" My fork paused halfway to my mouth. There it was. The moment. The test. "I wasn't in Chicago that weekend," I said, carefully. "I think Carolyn was visiting an old friend." Her brow furrowed. "Oh, that's not what she said." I smiled softly. "Well, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong weekend." And I turned the conversation back to the wine pairing, hoping she wouldn't press further, that Carolyn had noticed. From across the room, she saw the exchange. Our eyes locked. Her smile flickered, and I knew she was going to retaliate. Later that evening, after the first dance and the cutting of the cake, it was time for the maid of honor speech. My hands were sweating as I walked to the microphone. I hadn't written anything controversial. I hadn't planned any sort of bombshell. I just wanted to survive the night. I gave a sweet, simple speech, thanked the guests, wished them happiness, complimented Michael, but I skipped Caroline's perfect character. I told the truth, without telling the truth. "I've watched Carolyn grow into the woman she is today," I said. "And like any sister, I've seen both her light and her shadows. But today I choose to focus on the light. Because love, it deserves the brightest version of us." Polite applause. Some nods. A few smiles. But not from Caroline. She was frozen. Stood up slowly as I stepped away from the microphone. The DJ was about to transition into a slow song. People were still clapping. And then it happened. She walked up to me, face red, breathing sharp, and slapped me hard. So hard my head turned. The room fell dead silent. You could hear someone's fork hit their plate. And then she shouted. Her voice cracked and shrill. She's a liar. A jealous, bitter liar who tried to ruin my marriage. Don't listen to a word she says. People gasped. Michael looked stunned. I touched my cheek, feeling the sting, not just of the slap, but of years of being silenced, used, discarded. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't slap back. I stood there calm, grounded, steady. And I looked her in the eyes and said, I didn't lie. And one day everyone will see who you really are. I walked out, right in the middle of her wedding reception. Out of that ballroom. Out of that family's fantasy. And into the cold, quiet night. I didn't have a plan, but I had my dignity. And I was finally done protecting her. Asterisk. The first thing I noticed when I got home that night was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the thick, suffocating kind. The kind that sinks into your skin and reminds you that something has changed forever. I dropped my shoes by the door, peeled off my bridesmaid dress, and collapsed onto the couch, fully clothed. I just stared at the ceiling. Everything felt surreal. Had that really just happened? Did my own sister really slap me in front of 300 people? At her wedding? And more than that, had anyone even stood up for me? No, not a single guest had run after me. Not our parents. Not a cousin. Not a bridesmaid. Not even Michael. They all just stood there. And that silence, that absence hurt more than the slap itself. The messages started pouring in the next morning. Some from distant relatives. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. You should apologize and smooth things over. Some from family friends. I always knew there was something strange about you. Ruining your sister's wedding. Shame on you. And then, the one that gutted me. From Mom. You embarrassed us all. Carolyn is devastated. We expect you to make this right immediately. Not once did anyone ask if I was okay. Not once did anyone say, what happened? They already decided I was the villain. The jealous sister. The bitter maid of honor who snapped under pressure. Caroline's narrative had already spread like wildfire. I tried to sabotage her wedding because I was envious. I made a scene during the most important day of her life. I lied about her personal affairs to damage her marriage. But she left one important truth out. I hadn't lied. My job at the small branding agency I worked for didn't require me to be in the public eye, but it didn't stop my co-workers from talking. I overheard whispers in the break room. Did you see the video on Instagram? Her sister slapped her at the wedding. God, what did she do to deserve that? Because of course someone had filmed it. Of course it had gone viral. And of course the edited version cut out everything except the slap and Caroline's sobbing accusations. I became that girl overnight. Not by choice, but by exposure. By the end of the week, my boss pulled me into his office. He tried to be kind, but his words felt like little cuts. You're a distraction right now. Maybe take some time off, get your personal life sorted. That was corporate speak for, you're making us look bad. I walked out with my box of things. Dignity intact, but heart shredded. That night, I finally cried. Not just a few tears. Everything came out. The betrayal. The humiliation. The way my own family turned their backs on me without a single question. The job I lost. The identity. I had been reduced to dot, and beneath it all, This burning sense of injustice. Because I had done the right thing. I could have lied. I could have protected Caroline like I had so many times before. But for once I stood up for what was right. And they punished me for it. But here's the thing about being pushed to the bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. A week later, I received a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Alex. We were once inseparable during college, roommates, best friends, late-night snack runs and crying over term papers. But we drifted apart after graduation. Life pulled us in different directions. Alex had seen the video. And unlike everyone else, she called to ask if I was okay. I told her everything. The cheating, the lie, the threat, the slap. Alex was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You need to fight back." "I don't want revenge," I whispered. "I just want peace." She replied, "Sometimes justice is peace." Her words lit a spark in me. Because deep down, I knew something. Caroline had more to hide. And now that she'd turned me into her enemy, I had no reason to protect her anymore. No more covering. No more silence. If she wanted war, she'd get it. But not the screaming, petty kind. No. I would use truth, evidence, strategy. And most of all, patience. Because the real revenge is making the world see her for who she truly is. After that call with Alex, something in me switched. I had spent so long being passive, letting things happen to me, letting Caroline write the script of who I was supposed to be. But now I was done being a background character in her perfect little production. She slapped me on her stage. Now I was writing my own, and I was going to find the truth buried beneath all her lies. Started by digging through my old text threads. Back when Caroline was seeing Thomas her big mistake, I remembered warning her, not because I was judging her, but because Thomas was dangerous. He wasn't just a bad boyfriend. He was the kind of man who knew how to manipulate, twist, and disappear when things got too complicated. And I'd seen the bruises once. She swore she fell down the stairs. I didn't push it then. Maybe I should have. But after that night, she slept with him again. The night she needed me to lie, something told me that Thomas hadn't disappeared quietly. So I messaged him. I didn't even know if his number still worked. But 5 minutes later, he responded, Well, look who decided to reach out. Thought you were the good sister." I ignored the jab. "Caroline's married now. I think you know why I'm messaging." He responded with a laughing emoji. Then, "Tell her I still have the videos. She know which ones." My blood ran cold. I knew what this meant. Caroline had always been reckless in private. She had lived a double life for years, sweet, high-achieving, loyal daughter on the surface. But in the shadows, there were parties, secrets, and moments she didn't want seen. And now someone else had the proof. Someone like Thomas. I reached out to Alex again. She was working in PR now, ironically handling scandals, rebuilding reputations. She was also good at digging through social media footprints. "I need help finding anything that connects Caroline to Thomas after she met Michael," I told her. Alex got to work, and she was good. Really good. In just a few days, she uncovered a burner Instagram account Caroline had used to message Thomas months before the wedding. A Venmo transaction labeled emergency, sent from Caroline to Thomas 2 weeks before the engagement party. A deleted story from a mutual friend's backup drive showing Caroline at a bar with Thomas the night she claimed she was visiting me in Chicago. The timeline was unraveling, and so was the truth. I printed everything. Screenshots, receipts, timeline charts, not to expose her just yet, but to have it. To hold the power she thought she destroyed the night she slapped me. Then, I remembered something else. A week before the wedding, Carolyn had logged into my laptop. She claimed she needed to print something. That seemed innocent until I checked my email. A message I never wrote had been sent from my account to one of her bridesmaids. It said, "So excited to see you next weekend. Carolyn and I had such a good time in Chicago. Can't wait to catch up." It was fake. She forged my voice, used my account to create evidence that I had been with her. She was building a safety net, in case anyone questioned her. In case Michael questioned her. And now, I had even more reason to fight back. What she hadn't counted on was me documenting everything. What she didn't expect was me taking all those candles I handcrafted for her wedding, those sweet little favors I spent nights pouring and wrapping, and using them as the beginning of my story. Because there was something poetic about it. I had poured myself into her world. Now I was burning it down. One truth at a time. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about self-respect. About setting the record straight. And more than anything, it was about protecting people from her. Because Carolyn didn't just lie once. She was still lying. Still pretending. Still manipulating everyone around her into believing she was a victim. But she forgot something. Victims don't usually have blackmail files. I had just uncovered hers. Asterisk. The truth is a funny thing. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come crashing in like thunder. Sometimes it arrives quietly like a crack in the ice beneath your feet. Small, almost unnoticeable, until the whole surface breaks. That's what this moment was for me. The turning point. Not a scream. Not a slap. Just a quiet shift in the air. When I realized I no longer needed anyone's permission to rise. Armed with the receipts, screenshots, and messages, I decided to do what Carolyn never expected me to do. Nothing. At least, not right away. I wouldn't post anything. I wouldn't email Michael. I wouldn't show up at some family event with a folder of evidence. Instead, I got to work on myself. Because the most powerful revenge isn't just exposing the lie. It's thriving despite it. First, I took Alex's advice and consulted a lawyer. Not just about defamation, but about the forged email, the slap, the fallout at work, the professional and personal damage. What Carolyn did wasn't just cruel. It was borderline criminal. The attorney looked over the forged email and said, calmly, "This is textbook digital impersonation. If you want to pursue charges, we can." It felt good to have someone take me seriously, but I wasn't ready for legal action. Not yet. Wasn't interested in burning everything down. I wanted her to watch me rebuild. Next, I focused on finding a new job. At first, I thought it'd be impossible. I felt tainted, like my name had been dragged through the mud online, and no one would want me. But Alex coached me through rewriting my resume, and even connected me with someone in her firm's branding department. To my surprise, the hiring manager had seen the wedding clip. She smiled gently during our Zoom call and said, "That took guts walking away like that. Not many people would have stood up for what was right. We need more people like you." I got the job. Higher pay, better environment, remote friendly. For the first time in months, I breathed freely. Carolyn might have shattered the old version of me, but that version wasn't meant to survive. I was becoming someone new, stronger, sharper, unapologetically myself. And that's when I started to plan, not for revenge, for exposure. Because Carolyn hadn't just lied to me. She'd lied to Michael, lied to his family, lied to everyone about who she really was. She slapped me in front of 300 people and screamed that I was a liar. I couldn't just let that sit. I wouldn't stoop to her level either. So I started small. I mailed an anonymous envelope to Michael. Inside A flash drive. A typed letter. Ask your wife about Thomas. Ask her where she really was that weekend. Screenshots. Venmo receipts. Messages. A printed version of the email she'd sent from my account. No signature. No return address. Just. Truth. Let her try to spin that. A week later, I heard through the grapevine that Michael had moved out. No public announcement. No divorce filing yet. But he was staying with his cousin, and Carolyn had stopped posting photos of their perfect life. Her captions went from bubbly to vague. Life is full of unexpected tests. Sometimes you learn who people really are. Oh, we did. And I wasn't done. The next step? I started a blog. Not a gossip site. Not a drama pit, just a place to tell my story anonymously. I titled it The Other Sister and began with a simple tagline. This is what happens when the scapegoat refuses to stay silent. I wrote about growing up in someone else's shadow, about being manipulated under the guise of family loyalty, about what it meant to stand up and say no even when the world punishes you for it. I didn't name her. Didn't need to. But the people who mattered, I knew. And the blog took off. Women began messaging me, sharing their stories, their Carolines, their own public humiliations, their own quiet rises from the ashes. It became something bigger than revenge. It became healing. For me. For others. And that's when I realized Carolyn didn't break me. She revealed me. Everything she did to silence me, it only amplified my voice. And the next time I saw her, she wouldn't be the one standing taller. Asterisk. It took less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks from the moment I mailed that envelope to Michael to when everything Carolyn tried to hide began unraveling in public. It didn't explode right away. At first, it was whispers. Tension. The kind you feel at the edges of conversations. And then snapped. The facade shattered. It started at a charity gala. The first public event Carolyn and Michael were supposed to attend as a married couple. Only Michael showed up alone. Photos surfaced online. Michael smiling tightly for cameras, standing next to his mother and cousin. No bride. No wedding ring. Then came the headlines. Where's the new Mrs. Bennett? Split already? Social media. Star missing from husband's first post-wedding appearance. Carolyn tried to brush it off with a post. Not every queen attends every ball. #booked and busy. But people weren't buying it. Especially not when screenshots from my anonymous blog started getting reposted by larger accounts. On Reddit, TikTok, Twitter. Everywhere. Some called it tea. Others called it karma. But I called it truth. And people were hungry for it. Meanwhile, Caroline's perfect narrative was collapsing. Her sponsors started backing out. Her collab with a boutique skincare line was paused indefinitely. One influencer even shared that Caroline had a reputation for stepping on people to get ahead. And then Michael's cousin Savannah spoke up. On her private account, she posted, I used to think she was misunderstood. But now, I think we all owe her sister an apology. That post got shared and reshared. I didn't need to defend myself. People were doing it for me. Back in my own life, things were finally feeling calm. For the first time, I woke up and didn't dread opening my phone. My blog, The Other Sister, had over 400k followers now. Women wrote me letters. Some mailed gifts. One even sent me a small handmade necklace with the word truth stamped on it. I wore it every day, even to the lunch meeting I had with a podcast producer. She slid her phone across the table and smiled. You're going to be our next featured guest. And don't worry, we'll protect your identity. I hesitated. Do I need to be anonymous anymore? She blinked. That's your call. And in that moment, I made a decision. I was done hiding. Done. Playing small dot if Carolyn was going to slap me in front of the world. Then the world could see me rise dot. So when the episode aired, my name was right there in the title. How my sister tried to silence me and failed. Guessed. Nora Jamie's my real name. My real voice. My real story. It went viral in a day. Carolyn didn't take it well. She posted a tearful Instagram video. I'm just a woman who made one mistake. Why does everyone want to destroy me? The comments were brutal. You slapped your sister at your own wedding, girl. You made her lie for you and forged her email loan up. Your sister is thriving. Take notes. She turned the comments off. Then she went dark. The best part? I never once named her. I didn't have to. Truth doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs air. And once you let it breathe, it spreads. Like wildfire. Like freedom. Like justice. At a coffee shop weeks later, a stranger recognized me. She leaned over and whispered, "Your story helped me walk away from someone toxic. Thank you." I smiled, genuinely. Carolyn had tried to turn the world against me, but all she'd really done was set the stage for my becoming. And now, the world finally knew who I was. Not the quiet sister, not the maid of honor turned villain, not the jealous one, but Nora James, writer, truth-teller, survivor, and the one who stood up, walked away and never looked back. Asterisk, I knew it was coming. Carolyn had gone too quiet for too long. No rants, no Instagram stories, no cryptic quotes, or curated lifestyle posts. Just silence. That wasn't like her. She wasn't the type to retreat without a plan. So I waited. And sure enough, the invitation arrived. Not a reconciliation. Not an apology. A trap. She called it a family brunch. A post-wedding thank you gathering. But I knew better. It was her way of putting the mask back on, of spinning the narrative, reclaiming the center of attention, and painting herself as the gracious, misunderstood sister. But I went. Not to fall into her drama, but to end it. On my terms, the event was hosted at our parents' house. The one with the beige siding and the slightly leaning mailbox. A home that once felt warm, but now just felt like neutral ground in a battle neither of us truly won. Everyone was there. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in months. Neighbors who'd seen the viral slap clip. Cousins who avoided eye contact. Even Michael's mother showed up, looking as regal and unreadable as ever. But no Michael. Of course. The front door opened, and Carolyn floated in late, as always, but dressed like she was arriving at a Vogue shoot. Soft cream dress, oversized sunglasses, delicate heels clicking on the tiles. She walked straight to me. "Can we talk? Alone?" she asked, voice syrupy sweet. I nodded. Because I wanted it too. We stepped into the old den, the one we used to build forts in as kids, where we watched movies under blankets and shared secrets with popcorn breath. Now, it was silent. Cold. She closed the door behind her. "Look," she started. "I know things got ... out of hand." I said nothing. She shifted. I was under pressure. "I didn't think you'd take it so personally. I mean, why couldn't you just lie for me? You made it a bigger deal than it had to be." I tilted my head. "You slapped me in front of hundreds of people." Her smile faltered. "That was heat of the moment. And you forged an email from my account." A pause. She inhaled sharply. "You don't understand what it's like having everyone expect perfection. I was drowning. I made mistakes." "No," I said. "You made choices." She blinked. You're not exactly innocent either. You made me look like a monster online. You think that's fair? I stepped forward. I never named you. I didn't have to. The truth spoke for itself. She crossed her arms, visibly bristling. So what? You want a medal? You want me to beg for forgiveness? No, I replied. I want accountability. And I want freedom. I want to walk into a room without people whispering because of your lie. I want my life back. She stared at me, eyes glassy. But I didn't back down. You ruined my reputation. You cost me my job. You turned our family against me? And for what? To protect a fairy tale that was already crumbling. I reached into my purse and pulled out a slim envelope. I had this prepared months ago. It has everything: the email, the Venmo receipts, the screenshots, even the lawyer's notes. But I didn't send it to the press. I could have. I didn't. I held it out to her. I'm giving it to you, not as a threat, as a reminder. She didn't take it, so I laid it on the table. I don't need revenge, Carolyn. I have peace. And I have power now, the kind that doesn't come from followers or curated posts. The kind you can't fake. She sat down slowly, as if the weight of it all finally landed. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I believe that, I said. But it did. And now it's yours to carry. I stood to leave. She didn't follow. When I stepped back into the brunch, it was like the air had shifted. I walked past the guests, no slouched shoulders, no lowered eyes. I smiled, nodded, held my head high. I wasn't the black sheep anymore. Was the truth. And everyone knew it, even if they didn't say it out loud, especially Carolyn. As I left the house, I passed Michael's mother on the front steps. She placed a hand gently on my arm. Thank you, she said simply. That's all. That's all I needed. That night, I wrote the final post on the other sister. Closure isn't always an apology. Sometimes it's just a moment, a glance, a shift. And you realize you've outgrown the pain. You survived the story they wrote for you. And now, you're the one holding the pen. Asterisk, closure is quieter than I thought it would be. It's not a grand confrontation. Not fireworks or public takedowns. It's a cup of coffee without anxiety. It's sleeping through the night. It's being able to say your sister's name without your stomach twisting into a knot. It's the moment you realize you're free. And I was finally after the brunch. Things didn't magically get better with my family. There were still awkward silences, still unspoken tension. But there was also a shift. They started asking questions instead of making accusations. My dad called me 2 weeks later and asked if I wanted to come over for dinner. Just the two of us. At the table. He looked at me, his hands folded over his napkin. I didn't know how bad it had gotten between you two, he said softly. I thought you girls were just sisters, I nodded. We were. And then we weren't. He sighed, eyes heavy with something like regret. You didn't deserve what happened. It wasn't an apology. Not quite. But it was enough. A crack of warmth in a wall that had once felt impenetrable. Carolyn, for her part, stayed quiet. For months. No new posts. No brand deals. No drama. She faded into digital silence, and in that silence, I found peace. And that would have been enough. But life had more in store. Asterisk, one afternoon, I received an email from a literary agent. She had been following my blog for weeks. She loved the tone, the strength, the honesty, and she wanted to know, would I ever consider writing a book? I stared at the email in disbelief. Me? A book? But as I sat there in my cozy apartment, surrounded by candles I now made for my online store, I realized something. I already had written a story. Now, I just needed to tell it in full. Asterisk, asterisk. The book was called The Other Sister, a memoir of silence, survival, and speaking up. It wasn't about dragging Carolyn. It wasn't revenge bound in hardback. It was about becoming. It was about the quiet girls, the overlooked siblings, the scapegoats and black sheep who are stronger than anyone realizes. It was about me. And when the book launched, when it hit bestseller lists, when it was featured in women's magazines, when I was invited to speak on panels about family dynamics and silent trauma, I never once mentioned Caroline's name, because she didn't deserve the spotlight anymore. I did. Months later, at one of my readings, a young woman stood up during the Q&A, tears in her eyes. "I was the other sister," she said, "until I read your words. You gave me language for pain I thought I had to carry forever." I swallowed hard and smiled through the lump in my throat. That's why I had told the truth. Not for revenge, for redemption, for power, for her, me, for all of us who were told to sit down and be quiet when we should have been standing tall. Thought maybe Carolyn would reach out eventually. Maybe she'd call. Maybe she'd try again. But she didn't. And strangely, that was okay. Because I no longer needed anything from her. Not closure, not recognition, not even forgiveness. I had outgrown the wound, and in its place, I had built something solid. Something real, a life, a voice, a name that belonged to me, not someone's shadow. Asterisk, asterisk, some moments define us. Not because they're big or flashy, but because they force us to choose who we want to become. For me, that moment was standing in that crowded ballroom. Slapped, humiliated, betrayed by my own sister. It could have broken me, but instead, it built me. Since then, my life has blossomed in ways I never imagined. I launched my own small business, handcrafted candles, inspired by those I made for Caroline's wedding, but now filled with intention, healing scents, and affirmations. I speak publicly about family dynamics and the power of speaking your truth. I mentor young women caught in toxic family webs, encouraging them to reclaim their stories, their voices, their power. Every day I wake up knowing I am not defined by someone else's narrative. I am Nora James, and that name carries strength. My family, it's healing, slowly but surely. Old wounds take time. But now, there's room for real conversations, for honesty. For boundaries, for love that isn't conditional. Carolyn, I've learned to wish her peace from afar. Not bitterness. Not anger. Just peace. Because the greatest revenge is living well. So to anyone listening, to anyone watching, to anyone feeling silenced by someone they love, you are not alone. Your story matters. Your voice is powerful. And your truth will set you free. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a journey. One, marked by pain. But also by courage. By growth. By the unshakable belief that we don't have to stay in the shadows of others. We can step into our own light. And that light, it's brilliant. Asterisk, thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment revenge so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Asterisk, asterisk.